So what could the government do? What could the United States government do to just come clean? I mean, it could just be someone, could be the president. He could finally, who even knows if our presidents even know these days? Like, I'm not even, I think that's unclear. I think there's only certain people within the government and somewhere in the Pentagon, certain people, I'm not even sure if presidents are completely told all the facts on this. It's not clear, but if you want to, instead of just this slow disclosure process that that's obviously happening right now, that's unfolding for the past few years, with the admission that, okay, yeah, there's things out there, we don't know what they are, the Pentagon admitting that, with that going on, instead of that, why not just spill the beans, why not something like, here's like, I wrote out a mock speech, basically. It could be something like this, that the president or somebody in the government could make this announcement, standing in front of a podium, standing at a podium with a microphone, somewhere in Washington, and this is what the president or somebody, they could say something to this effect. In 1947, the U.S. Army Air Force recovered a crashed flying saucer in the desert outside of Roswell, New Mexico. It was soon determined the object, as well as its pilots, were of extraterrestrial origin. 3 of the occupants were deceased. A 4th pilot had survived but died several months later. It was decided at the time by then-President Harry S. Truman and Pentagon officials that it would be in the best interest of the American public and the world in general to keep this find secret. The reasons for keeping it secret were because of A, the military implications. It was decided that it would not behoove the best interests of the American people to have our enemies know of this great find. Officials determined that a program to reverse engineer the recovered technology was the proper course, as any discoveries would give the United States a military advantage that would greatly surpass any technology developed by our enemies. B, the concern of panic among the citizenry. There is no question that some members of the public would panic over the notion that the Earth is being visited by extraterrestrial civilizations. C, economic implications. The release of information relating to extraterrestrial visitation could have a negative impact on world economies. D, religious implications. The beliefs held among members of certain religions would be turned upside down, thus leading to confusion that would lend itself to the potential panic that could ensue with disclosing the truth of the situation. For all of those reasons, among others, the reality that the planet and members of the human race have been getting visited, surveilled, and sometimes abducted by alien visitors against their will for decades has been suppressed, largely successfully, by the United States government and other governments of the world. However, with the advancements of our own technology with regard to information sharing, photography, and video capturing, it has reached a point where it has become increasingly difficult to maintain the cover-up. With that in mind, the faction of the United States government that has been in charge of keeping secret the reality that there has been a constant extraterrestrial presence on Earth since at least 1947 has determined now is the right time to unveil the truth. Could be something as simple as that. Of course, now, if a statement like that, could you imagine if a statement like that was made, by some officials within our government, there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset that this thing was being kept secret for so long. But I mean, again, there's reasons for it. There were reasons for it, legitimate reasons. I think I actually agree that maybe this thing needed to be kept secret in 1947 and probably into the 50s. But it reached a point where these, at the time they could have thought, well, maybe they're just, this ain't going to happen all the time. We're not going to, maybe when this first happened, it's like, okay, this could be a 1 in a million thing. We're never going to have to deal with alien visitors all the time. This is, who knows? But it kept on happening. It obviously kept on happening. There's obviously things been going on all the time, all these years, all the time. Thousands, millions of people have seen UFOs, and tens of thousands of people have seen these beings. There's just too many reports, too many things that you just can't cover up anymore. I mean, it's just, I think that a lot of people, I'd be one of the people. I'm upset that they're still covering it up, but I understand why initially it was covered up and why they had to try to maintain that. I just can't. You look at old news. You watch old TV shows from the 50s or old movies from the 40s and the 50s, or TV shows from that time, and just think about, would those people be able to handle this? I'm not sure they would have. I mean, it just would have been, I think it would have been too much for the human race at that time. But I think we are at that point now where it's time. It is time. And the longer this goes on, I think it just makes it worse, doesn't it? It feels like it's because there's a good chunk of this world that has no idea. Yeah, I mean, people that are watching my channel and other channels on YouTube or listening to the podcasts that I do, and many other. I mean, I hardly have any. Actually, to be quite honest, I don't have many subscribers or many followers, but people who read the books and people who've experienced this themselves. There are a lot of people out there who do know what's that know that something's going on. They know that there's beings here. There's a presence. There's no question about it. But there's a lot of people that just, there's no one in my family really that's ever, seen something like I did, or at least they don't have any memory of it. But I mean, some people that are within my family, and then some friends I have, they don't believe in this stuff, and there's some people who do. But the thing is like, we need to get everybody on board here. People, we're well beyond that now. I mean, we're talking over 70 years here of suppressing the truth on this. It's time to come out with some sort of statement. I think it's well beyond that time, and it's time. I mean, by continuing this, I guess I don't know how worse it could get. I mean, basically it's bad enough. There's going to be the press is going to feel like idiots because they're going to have to, they're going to feel like fools that they weren't able to figure this out themselves. Well, it's certainly their own fault for never seriously investigating it. This has always been something that's been researched by, for the most part, 99% of the time, it's been the UFO situation. It's always independent people, independent researchers, people who, and like people like Stanton Friedman or Thomas Carey or Donald Schmidt or Richard Dolan, or you could just name just so many different people that investigated aliens, visitation, people like Ted Phillips who investigated all kinds of landings, and where these like the evidence that was left over from when these things landed, where people saw craft that were landed, and then like he would collect the evidence for that. Like there's been people have been researching this, but they've been independent researchers. They're not like working for the New York Times, So, where was the New York Times? Why did they not look into this? How could they be so foolish? I mean, and that makes me think that, yes, I believe that the people at the top of these, not the editor, not the managing editor, not the but the owners of these mainstream media outlets. Like, I think that maybe some of them are in the know, because how could they not insist that their reporters go out and dig this stuff up? That's because somebody in the Pentagon told them not to. That's why. And then at the same time told them the truth. I'm sure of it. It had to be. Because this thing could have been, the truth of this could have been out decades ago in the 50s. There were people like, back in the 50s, investigators, writers, independent people like Donald Kehoe. He was one of the first people that was investigating, UFOs and knew that they were of extraterrestrial origin. I mean, he would show up on, every now and then they would have a report on, he was on some TV shows back then, even. He wrote several books. But there's been a lot of people throughout the decades that have been investigating this, but it's all been independent efforts. And, it's unfortunate that the mainstream media has not taken it seriously. And until now they seem like they're taking it a little bit more seriously, but still not seriously enough. They're still giving the Pentagon a free pass. I mean, with the information that's come out, you think they would look into this a little bit more instead of like pretending it's foolish. Pretending like putting the same old decades old act on when someone brings up UFOs. Oh, boy, it's so funny, isn't it? You're serious? Oh, and you can't be serious. You know, you still get that kind of nonsense. I mean, even the guy on 60 Minutes when he was interviewing those people, it seemed like he couldn't believe this. This sounds crazy to me. I mean, it's just unbelievable, you know, how this thing has been handled by the mainstream press. So, yes, I believe that the people owning these mainstream outlets, I mean, they've been part of this too. They have to be. I mean, either that or they're just dumb. And they're not dumb. You don't end up, I just can't imagine you're being dumb. But yeah, they're probably their reporters are probably told, hey, no, we don't look into that kind of stuff. That's crazy talk. The Pentagon would have told us, you know, something like that. Yeah, okay, yeah.